Hello students, welcome back to the course on learning and development in organization. We move to the fourth lecture of the third module where we're looking into a new concept known as the international human resource development. In the previous two sessions, we have categorically discussed about strategic human resource management. Today, we'll look into international human resource development. I'm Dr. Cyril Issac. I'm an assistant professor at the School of Business, Indian Institute of Technology, Guwahati. Now, when you look into international human resource development, what is it? How is it different from the domestic human resource management? And what are the typical aspects associated with IHRM? This is what we are going to deal today. The underlying theme for that discussion would be human resource isn't a thing we do, it's a thing that run our business. If your organization is competent enough, if your organization is confident enough in telling this explicitly, then you are working in a wonderful organization. So this should be the understanding that you need to have when you're looking into international human resource development. Let's understand this right from the beginning. Let's start with the research definition of IHRM specifically. When you're talking about IHRM, as per Subbarao Pullappa 2007, IHRM can perform HRM and its connected activities and sort out for related and essential cultural and migrational facilities for future and current employees by the firm working in domestic and overseas countries. So, if you look into the entire IHRM perspective, you will see that IHRM refers to the process of managing human resources in multinational organizations across different countries. It involves recruitment, it involves training, it involves development, compensation, performance management, and all the well-known verticals of human resource management. Now, let's understand IHRM on basis of its importance and objectives. I have clubbed them into the same slide so that we will have a comparative analysis. When you're talking about importance of international human resource management, the first and the foremost one would be managing global workforce. Now, managing employees across different countries while considering the cultural, economic and legal differences is a trick. So, this involves coordinating HR policies, communication and work ethics across diverse regions. Let's take an example. A US-based tech company, let's say like Google, manages employees in India, in Germany, in Brazil, adapting HR policies to local labor laws and cultural expectations while maintaining a unified corporate culture. So, when you are looking into this global workforce, it brings in a certain diversity. It brings in a diversity in thought also with respect to the culture. Second important aspect which underscores the relevance of IHRM would be compliance with local laws. Compliance with local laws, ensuring that HR policies align with labor law, taxations, employee rights and even workplace safety regulations specific to each country where the company operates is vital. Let's take another example. A European company expanding to, let's say, Middle East must adjust its employment contracts to comply with labor laws regarding working hours or, let's say, end of service benefits or even visa regulations for that matter. Another significant factor which I can understand would be cross-cultural management. The process of understanding and managing differences in cultural norms. This is vital. Work behaviors or maybe leadership styles and communication patterns in a global workforce. So, example would be, let's say, a Japanese multinational company sending managers to the US might train them to adapt and adopt a more direct communication style, as Western cultures prefer openness compared to the indirect communication in Japan. Then you have talent acquisition and retention. The strategies used to, let's say, attract or hire or even retain skilled professionals from different regions while providing competitive salaries is critical, specific to the career growth and, let's say, a positive work environment. We can take an example of a global consulting firm, let's say Deloitte. Deloitte offers flexible work arrangements and leadership development programs to retain top talent across various countries. Then you have cost efficiency. Look into optimizing HR expenses by reducing operational cost, outsourcing, hiring local employees instead of expatriates, and utilizing remote work solutions. An example here could be of a US company outsourcing customer service operations to, let's say, a country like Philippines. They benefit from lower labor costs while maintaining high service quality. When you talk about IHRM importance, you have to also understand the objectives of IHRM specifically. We'll start with efficient global workforce planning to strategically allocate human resources across different countries, ensuring the right people are in the right roles at the right time. This is what the key to efficient global workforce planning is, if you ask me. An example could be, let's say, a multinational organization, a company like IBM uses workforce analytics to determine staffing needs across the global offices, ensuring balanced labor distribution and cost optimization is there. Another significant objective of IHRM would be cultural sensitivity and inclusion. So, to create a diverse and inclusive workspace by understanding and respecting cultural differences, ensuring all employees feel valued and engaged is vital to cultural sensitivity. Let's take an example of Microsoft. Microsoft implements cultural training programs for employees, working in cross-border teams to improve the collaboration and reduce the workplace misunderstandings, if any. The third most critical objective, which I would state, is standardization versus localization. To balance global consistency in human resource policies or HR practices while allowing flexibility to adapt to local labor laws or customs or business practices, we need to have this particular standardization. Let's take an example of McDonald's. It maintains a global HR framework but adapts its employment policies based on the regional labor laws and cultural expectations. So, what you expect in US might be different from what you expect in India with respect to the laws and with respect to the culture as well. Another significant objective would be the global talent development. So, very quickly, global talent development is nothing but to identify, nurture, and if you ask me, develop leadership talent across different countries, different contexts, preparing employees for international roles and responsibilities. An example would be, let's say, Unilever's Global Leadership Program. It helps high potential employees gain international experience and prepares them for top executive positions. Another significant objective would be to manage the expatriates and the international assignments. To effectively handle the relocation, adaptation and performance of employees sent to work in foreign countries while ensuring their well-being and productivity would be the key objective. Let's take an example of a German automotive company sending, let's say, executives to, let's say, China. It provides language training, it provides cultural immersion programs and relocation support to ensure a smooth transition. So, that's all about IHRM importance and objectives. Now, let's look into the difference between domestic versus international. Now, this is critical. When you talk about the human resource management practice, let's put a thought. Let's think for some time. Is there a significant difference between international human resource management and domestic human resource management? So, there are typical points we can think of, like nationalities or with respect to the relationships and the complexities involved within the workforce, or external environment, how it influences, or how typically the variety of functions, they have a typical say on DHRM and how it is different from IHRM, or different approaches for the functions might be different with different cultural context playing a vital role. Let's say a case of workplace safety might be dealt in a different way in a country like India and in a different way in a country like US. The norms, the labor laws, or the compliance aspects all might have slight difference. So this is what delineates, this is what differentiates, I would say, between DHRM, domestic human resource management, and international human resource management. Let's understand this in a different perspective. Let's understand this with respect to what we have seen with respect to major nationalities of employees when they are involved. Wider nationalities, as I mentioned, IHRM deals with people of different nationalities, which is entirely different from what we have in DHRM. DHRM, we do not have this particular case where employees are primarily from one race. So various cultures, values, racial and linguistic interpretations, or even sometimes religious beliefs and so on come with different nationalities. So it's not the same with people of the same race. And I will also say that organizations can recruit people from other countries to work in another country based on their business requirements. So if you look into a typical MNC, it operating globally, having a vast pool of talent to recruit from, something like Samsung, a South Korean organization, catering to the market in US, can hire a marketing manager from the EU to actually fulfill its organizational objectives. Another difference could be what we see, the broader relationships and complexities. The information sought by the organization in, let's say, on border aspects of employees and their family members. There is a contrasting difference while even recruiting and selection of employees happen with respect to different nationalities. The elements can range from, let's say, age or health or educational qualification. Even some trivial matters like driving skills becomes relevant for some cultural context. Criminal records of the employees and their family members, since organizations are responsible for arranging the work permits, visas and resident permits for them and their family members. Also, you see that there is a possibility of influence of international environment. The international environment, if you ask me, significantly influences globalization. People are aware and have become accepting of the differences that arise due to the culture and the tradition of people of different nationalities. The international environment, no doubt, is complex, it is dynamic, it is vibrant, it is intertwined, and I will say it is interdependent also. So this is mainly due to globalization. So with globalization and advancement in technology, people are more connected to people across different places across the globe. So this particular awareness has sensitized them and made them more accommodating to the diverse cultures and traditions of people of different nationalities. You look into social and cultural norms, they vary, but this is where they unite. Another significant aspect would be enduring complexities of HRM activities. If you look into IHRM, it mainly deals with expatriates, that is, nationals of their home country, host country and third country citizens. So the host country typically must follow specific rules and regulations as these expatriates work in different countries altogether. While on the other hand, if you look into the domestic human resource management, it deals with only nationals of the same country. So HRM activities are limited to domestic laws and regulations of the country. Organizations recruiting foreign nationals, typically, if you ask me, follow different HRM practices for the residents and expatriates. The pay structure is different for the citizens and in case of expatriates. So this typically may have some issue, this may create some friction, or you will have some problems with respect to this or emerging from this. Again, if you look into the differences between domestic and international, there are a variety of functions that you have to look into. Now, additional details of employees. Let's take some variables. MNCs ask for additional information such as be it culture, ethnicity, or even sometimes health status, or family members, what are their health status, to understand if prospective candidate would be suitable for the country they are recruiting for. Some additional recruitment techniques would be there, something like culture of the country, natural beauty of the country, currency exchange value or exchange stability or repatriation percentage comparison to home country, or let's say medical facilities, or sometimes even work-life balance. They are used to attract and inspire prospective candidates. Checking of criminal records would be there, online selection processes would be different. Even sometimes employee details taken would be different. Immigration information, the financial status, health status, etc. to the applicant's country, this might be relevant to them. Fulfilling immigration formalities or logistic arrangement for that matter, providing all the necessary information related to your travel, stay, the tickets, etc. Everything would be covered. Introduction to some specific training like language workshop or transition facilities, all would have its own relevance when it comes to IHRM, and it is highly different from the domestic human resource management practices. When you look into another significant aspect, it is a different approach, or they are the different approaches for the functions that we have just delineated. Something like recruitment, selection, induction, placements, something like training and development, something like salary and administration, or the benefits associated with that, retention management and maintenance. You look into domestic human resource management, it deals with employees from one country or single race, whereas international human resource management is all about agreements with employees from typically different countries and multiple races. This is the categorical difference between both. You also see that as DHRM, it deals with people from a single country. The employer doesn't have to make much effort to understand the employee's culture, which is different in the case of IHRM. Also, you will see that DHRM deals with single country's internal environment, but please note, IHRM has to deal with internal environment of multiple nations. The DHRM only has to deal with nationals of one country similarly, which is not the case with IHRM. The scope of HRM activities is limited in DHRM, but please note, the range of HRM activities is widened as you are looking into IHRM and multinationals included into that. So the approach of HRM functions is limited in DHRM as it only involves activities carried out in one country, whereas that's not the case in case of IHRM. Now let's look into activities under IHRM. IHRM activities are heavily listed out as global recruitment and selection. You look into this as HR planning, hiring the right talent across different countries while considering cultural and legal differences. You also have some of the training and development programs. You see that there is a similarity that happens between the HRM functions or dimensions and the IHRM activities. Be it the case of the recruitment, as we have seen, be the case of training and development. We also see that in terms of compensation and benefits, you have similar lines of processes listed out when it is HRM and IHRM. You also have performance management, evaluating and managing the performance of the individual or the workforce. And even repatriation, the process of returning expatriates from the host country to the home country. This would be one significant addition that will come in IHRM activities. Otherwise, with respect to the verticals, be it recruitment, it might be more global in nature. With respect to training, again, it might be more diverse in nature with respect to the requirement of the diverse workforce. Compensation and benefits again would be more scattered through different expressions, different expectations and different processes involved in that. Performance management also, the metrics might be quite tangible with respect to one culture context and different in terms of another. So that would be the major case. But having said that, repatriation is one of the clear IHRM activity, which is not the case with the normal HRM. Now let's look into the important terms of IHRM. Very quickly, when you look into international human resource management, there are some terms which become the buzzword. Every now and then we tend to use these particular words. and these have specific relevance. You look into home or parent country. Home country or parent country is a central command of the parent company where the MNC or the TNC is based. We'll come to the MNC and TNC quickly. When you look into the host country, it's a subsidiary branch of MNC or TNC. It operates or get operated there or located there. Then you have the MNCs, multinational corporations or organizations that operate in multiple countries other than their home country. Similarly, transnational corporations are organizations that produces, trades, funds and operates worldwide. That's the difference between MNC and TNC. Then you have the parent country nationals. So when you are looking into home country nationals, residents of the MNCs, TNCs, home country, parent country, they all belong there. Host country nationals, they are typically, a national of the host country who is an employee of the affiliate branch of an MNC or TNC, who is resident of the country in which there's an affiliate or branch of the MNC and TNC is functional. And third country nationals are employee of a multinational corporation and its subsidiaries. These are some of the critical terms that are associated with IHRM. Now we move on to the different approaches pertaining to IHRM. The first one is the ethnocentric approach. As in case of ethnography, we also have ethnocentric approach. Domestic companies, if you ask me, formulate their strategies, their product design and operations toward national markets, customers and competitors. So in excessive production, the company can choose to export to foreign countries. So the new foreign market is considered as an extension or a new region. This approach is suitable, especially if you ask me, during the early days of internationalization for smaller organizations. So some of the clear advantages like better coordination between the host and the parent country, or sometimes effective control by the head branch over the subsidiaries, or sometimes if you look into the efficient transfer of technical knowledge that exists, or sometimes even parent company can watch over activities of all the subsidiaries. It can have easy transfer of parent company culture to the subsidiaries, and promoting effective communication between the parent and host country might be some of the advantages of the ethnocentric approach. That said, if you are looking into the disadvantage part, please note there will be always a difficulty to train or guide employees of the subsidiaries at a different place from the parent country. Employees from the parent country might find difficulty in adjusting to the culture of the host country. Cultural clashes might be there. Government in host countries can impose strict restrictions on subsidiaries, severely affecting the business, or even a rate of failure might be high when you are looking into the ethnocentric approach, because opportunities to hire the best talent from the host country are mixed, and expatriates of the parent country are more expensive in comparison to the employee in the host country. That said, there are always some polycentric approaches where an overview domestic company exporting to foreign countries know that the foreign markets need an altogether different approach. Thus, a foreign subsidiary company is established to decentralize the operations and delegate decision-making authorities to its management. So, organizations appoint key personnel from the home country, and the host country's people fill all other vacancies specifically. You look into this polycentric approach again. Some of the best advantages that you see would be the difficulty in adjustment of expatriates from parent country. That's totally eliminated here because it's a polycentric approach. Local hiring is less expensive. Local staff morale would be high, certainly. Better productivity would be there due to better knowledge of the local market. Career opportunities for nationals of the host country definitely increase. Better government support or chances of the success are high. Whereas you look into the negative side, please note, when you are looking into polycentric approach, there will be a lack of coordination between the host and the parent country. So you see lack of effective communication, you see difficulty in exercising control over the subsidiary, you see lack of local market knowledge, you see even conflict that may arise due to different thinking processes between the employees of the host and the parent country. So people who are working in polycentric countries or polycentric organizations, they will definitely understand the disadvantages. Now, there is also a regiocentric approach. Let's understand this. After operating, let's say, successfully in the foreign country, the company expands the exporting operation to the neighboring countries of the host country. So, the foreign subsidiary considers the regional environment for formulating policies and strategies. Again, this will have certain advantages like cultural fit, or if you ask me, less cost is incurred when hiring the nationals of the host country is the key. Or employees work well in all the neighboring countries within the geographic region, or the nationals of the host country can better influence the decision of the managers. That said, there are also some disadvantages like communication gap, communication barrier due to language, or employees from different regions may lack international expertise and experience. And there is a possibility that there might create confusion between regional and global objectives. Then you have the geocentric approach. You look into the entire world, it's treated as one single country for the company. Employees are selected from the whole globe and operate with several subsidiaries. So headquarters coordinate the activities of the subsidiaries. Each subsidiary functions as an independent and autonomous company, formulating its policies, its strategies and product designs, etc. So you see that it helps in developing a pool of talent with international experience. Another significant advantage would be employee expertise, or reduction in resentment, or shared learning as employees learn based on experience of others. Whereas if you look into this geocentric approach altogether, it has a lot of cost of training, cost of compensation, and relocation of employees is also too high. And if you ask me, it is highly centralized control of staffing, which makes it a bit uncomfortable. Proper scrutiny by HR doing recruitment and approach is costly, since recruitment agencies or consultants are required to hire for the global search for eligible candidates. So these are the typical IHRM approaches what we have seen across the domain of organizations. Now we look into the IHRM issue. Very quickly, if you look into the key IHRM issues, we will see that it starts from cultural differences. Managing a global workforce means dealing with different cultural norms, different attitudes, expectations. So work ethics might be different, leadership styles may be different, communication approaches vary significantly. Let's say in US, employees prefer direct and open feedback, whereas in Japan, communication is often indirect to maintain harmony. So a US manager working in Japan might need to adjust their leadership approach to be more diplomatic. Another significant aspect would be the compliance factor, legal and regulatory compliance. Every country has its own employment laws, tax policies and labor rights, requiring businesses to ensure compliance to avoid legal penalties. So basically, organizations must adhere to local rules, be it regarding work hours or minimum wages or employee benefits, etc. Let's say in France, employees have strict work hour limits and strong protections against wrongful termination. Whereas this in US, employment is often at will, allowing easier termination possibility. Another significant aspect is the talent acquisition and retention. Finding and keeping top talent in different countries can be challenging due to differences in job market conditions, talent availability and competition. Let's say a tech company hiring software engineers in India might face high competition due to the country's booming IT sector, while in Europe, companies struggle with higher labor costs and limited talent pools. The fourth significant HRM issue I can list down is expatriate management. When you look into managing expatriates and repatriation particularly, that is sending employees abroad for international assignments, involves handling work visas, relocation, logistics, and even the most critical aspect, which is cultural adaptation. So, let's say a German automotive company is sending executives to China. It provides language training, it provides cultural immersion training or immersion programs are carried out, and even it gives relocation support. However, if these employees return to Germany without clear career progression, they may have to leave the organization. That is what makes it more accountable. Another significant issue is the compensation and benefit issue. Designing competitive and fair compensation packages is complex due to differences in living cost, differences in taxation, or sometimes social security systems also play a vital role. So, companies typically balance cost effectiveness with attractive pay structures to typically retain the talent. Let's take an example. In US, healthcare benefits are a major part of the employee compensation, whereas in Germany, social security and government funded healthcare cover most employee needs. So, that makes it contrastingly important. Another significant issue would be training and development. Employees working in global roles often require additional training on cultural sensitivity, foreign languages, and even sometimes, if you look into this particular training and development critically, international business practices also they might need training. Let's say a US executive assigned to China might receive training on Chinese negotiation tactics, business etiquette, and even importance of relationship building, what we call as guanxi in business dealings. There might be another issue of performance management. Please note, ladies and gentlemen, measuring employee performance in different countries can be tricky due to the diverse work expectations, management styles, and feedback culture. So, legal constraints may also affect how performance reviews and disciplinary actions are conducted. Let's say in Western countries, performance feedback is often given directly, while in Asian cultures, managers use indirect communication to avoid the embarrassment. And the final aspect would be the ethical and social responsibility, and this mainly comes with respect to diversity and inclusion. Let's say a multinational firm may need to ensure gender equality in European offices while also navigating different cultural perspective on gender roles in its Middle Eastern branches. Now let's understand the culture, the relevance of it, and its impact on HRM policies. When you look into culture, it has significant impact on the HRM policies and practices. Especially you look into employees working in different cultures, cultural differences arise, and even it can or it may lead to conflict. An ideal candidate is a person with managerial competence and willingness to get trained in other cultures and languages in organizations typically. So, that is what demarcates a good or ideal candidate from others. Other significant factors are impact of training. Training is provided to employees about the cultural components of the business. So, the general purpose is to train employees to get acquainted and mainly with the new culture, they do not have any issues. So, cultural training is essential for organization success. So, if the managers are not aware, the product or the policy implemented can fail. Another significant aspect would be compensation and rewards with respect to culture. Please note, when organizations prefer paying in a standard method in the means of payment, no matter which country an employee works in, sometimes the strategy might fail due to the cost of living or due to the cost being different in different country. Another significant aspect would be performance evaluation. There is always a debate about who should rate the home country employees. Cultural differences make the evaluation process ineffective, as the host country's managers might harshly judge or place the home country employees. And finally, you look into the HR priorities. Culture has an influential impact on HR priorities basically. So, in a global environment, managers are not concerned about employee retention. Instead, They develop leaders who can survive in new culture and train their workforce to operate effectively. So when you look into these culture factors, you should understand that knowledge is the first and the foremost factor which is gained from influence of environmental factors and interaction with the environment. So all these aspects like books, journals, magazines, newspapers are the ways to gain knowledge. You also have beliefs, which is a cognitive representation of a relevant environment. And then you have values. When you look into value, please understand value as an enduring belief that a specific mode of conduct or end state of existence is personally or socially preferable to an opposite or converse mode of conduct or end state of existence. So values are categorized like different levels. Level 1, reactive, where people react only to basic, physiological needs. Level 2 is there, which is more of tribalistic. People are strongly influenced by tradition. To level 3, for your understanding, egocentrism. People are aggressive, selfish and power responsive. Level 4, conformity. These people don't tolerate ambiguity and are uncomfortable with people possessing values that are different from others. Then there are manipulative values. These people prefer materialistic gains, seek status and manipulate others. Level 6, sociometric. These people prefer to go along with others rather than differently from others. Level 7 is about existential. So these people tolerate ambiguity and people with different values than those they possess. Then comes attitude. So typically attitude brings in a learned predisposition. So many a time people do have a detailed discussion about attitude, and if you ask me, this is one of the finest constructs that has been there in organizational behavior. Specifically, attitude is the learned enduring predisposition towards a set of objects or people. So when you are talking about attitude, you will definitely come across individuals who have an attitude against a set of people, or they may also have an attitude against a set of objects. Classic case, you might have an attitude against a certain food item. You might like it, you might dislike it, you might have some inherent predisposition to that. So please note one thing, that attitude, though the change of attitude is possible, attitude retraining is possible, things like systematic desensitization and all can effectively take care of attitude retraining, but it is not that an easy job. Many a time to all my OB students, I say this, I take this as an example. If let's say to put this attire, put this dress, put your the dress you are wearing, if it has taken the amount of years, X years, that X being your age, if it has taken that much of time, let's say 30, 40, 50 years of hard work has come up in actually wearing a particular dress, then it will not be removed with ease. Always note that attitude is something similar. It's a learned enduring predisposition towards a set of object or a set of people. So sometimes you feel that there might be some issues with respect to a particular set of people, but whether that will affect your behavior, it is dependent on the attitude. Sometimes you go for some preconceived notions, stereotyping you have or we have towards a set of people. It might be a way to reduce my cognitive load, but please make no mistake that sometimes preconceived notions might be wrong. You might have a different opinion when you work with those set of people closely. You will understand that yes, whatever I heard, whatever I knew or whatever I learned about these individuals are categorically wrong. I will have a better idea or better perspective about them now. So this is what attitude is, and similarly attitude leads to the behavior. So these are some of the cultural factors that you might have to look into when you are looking into learning and development. And finally, to make you understand about culture, you have different studies. One prominent study is Hofstede's culture dimension. We also have the globe dimensions, which is also a somewhat extension of the Hofstede culture dimension. Very quickly, you look into different aspects in Hofstede dimension. One is power distance, degree to which less powerful members accept unequal power distribution, and this is with respect to different cultural contexts. National culture, it is different. Similarly, you have individualism versus collectivism. Sometimes you stay in an individualistic culture, the way you behave is different from the persons or people who stay in a collectivistic cultural scenario. You have a difference in opinion when it comes to masculinity versus femininity. The way, the focus on competition with respect to the success, whether you portray it to, whether you deem it to a particular gender, that's a question. Uncertainty avoidance in a particular culture, sometimes you are more avoiding uncertainty. You are a person who tends to say, and that's not because of your predisposition, it's because of the cultural relevance. The culture itself is reinforcing that particular behavior. Similarly, whether you are long-term or short-term, or you are more into indulgence or restraint, it depends on your cultural factor. So Hofstede gave different dimensions to your knowledge. I'm telling you, the particular study has given different values for different national culture. So many of the studies, research studies that we take up, which has culture as a variable, culture as a construct, we tend to use this Hofstede dimension for the measure rather than going for a particular scale. So this is the relevance of Hofstede's culture dimension. So this was a comprehensive session which gave you some basic inputs into where you stand with respect to the understanding of different factors that can associate the behavior of an individual within an organization. And this is vital. This is critical, specific to the learning and development that you have to have. In an organization, if you are terming an organization as a learning organization, it needs to qualify certain criteria, and all these criteria, the fundamentals of these were discussed in this session. Thank you for listening to me patiently. We'll come up with more details of organization and learning organization specifically, and more about learning and development in the next session. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.